Newlywed Sarah and James stood on the porch of their newly purchased home, a charming Victorian house nestled at the edge of a quiet town. The house, with its ornate woodwork and sprawling garden, seemed the perfect place to begin their life together. They were eager to explore every nook and cranny, unaware of the dark secrets that lay hidden within. After spending the day unpacking, the couple decided to take a break and explore the house. They wandered through the creaky hallways, admiring the intricate details of their new home. Sarah noticed something odd about the layout. "James, have you seen this?" she called, pointing to a narrow door partially hidden behind a large bookcase. James joined her, curiosity piqued. Together, they pushed the bookcase aside, revealing the door. It was unlike any other in the house, with strange, cryptic symbols carved into its frame. The door creaked open to reveal a hidden room. The room was small and windowless, lit only by the dim light from the hallway. The walls were covered in faded photographs, all of people who seemed to be staring directly at the camera, their expressions blank and lifeless. A chill ran down Sarah's spine as she stepped inside. On the floor lay an old, dusty journal. James picked it up and opened it, revealing pages filled with cryptic symbols and incoherent scribbles. "What do you think this is?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "I don't know," Sarah replied, unease creeping into her voice. "But it feels wrong." They spent the next hour examining the photographs and the journal, trying to make sense of the bizarre findings. But as night fell, the atmosphere in the house grew heavy, and an unsettling silence enveloped them. That night, Sarah and James struggled to sleep. Every creak of the old house seemed amplified, echoing through their minds like a sinister melody. Shadows twisted and danced on the walls, forming shapes that seemed almost human but not quite. The whispers, soft and indistinct, carried a chilling undertone, like a voice calling from the depths of darkness. Sarah woke up in a cold sweat, her heart hammering in her chest. She clutched the blanket tightly, her eyes darting around the room. "James, did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. James turned to her, his face pale and drawn. "I heard it," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. His eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the same unease that gripped her. It sounded like someone crying, or something else. They lay in silence for a moment, straining to hear. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if beckoning them toward the hidden room. Both felt an unshakable dread, a sense that something malevolent was lurking just beyond their perception, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Sarah nodded. It sounded like someone crying. They both sat up, straining to hear. The sound seemed to be coming from the direction of the hidden room. Gathering their courage, they crept down the hallway, the old floorboards creaking under their feet. When they reached the hidden room, the door was ajar, though they were certain they had closed it earlier. Inside, the room felt colder than the rest of the house. The photographs on the walls seemed to have changed. The people in them now wore expressions of sorrow and despair. Determined to understand what was happening, Sarah and James spent the next day researching the history of the house. They visited the local library and spoke to longtime residents of the town. What they discovered chilled them to the bone. The house had belonged to a man named Elias Grayson, a reclusive scholar who was rumored to have dabbled in dark rituals. According to town lore, Elias had built the hidden room to trap a malevolent entity that he had summoned. The cryptic symbols were part of a binding spell meant to keep the entity confined. But Elias had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and the house had remained vacant for years until it was sold to Sarah and James. That evening, the couple returned home, their minds racing with fear and uncertainty. As darkness fell, the house seemed to come alive. The whispers grew louder, and the temperature plummeted. The hidden room emanated an ominous energy, drawing them toward it. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, trapping them inside. The symbols on the walls glowed with an eerie light, and the photographs seemed to shift, their eyes following the couple. A shadowy figure materialized in the center of the room, its form shifting and writhing. It spoke in a voice that was both ancient and otherworldly. "You have awakened me," it intoned. "And now, you shall take his place." Sarah and James clung to each other, terror gripping their hearts. The entity advanced, its presence suffocating. Desperate, they remembered the journal and the symbols within. James frantically flipped through the pages, searching for a way to banish the entity. With Sarah's help, James traced the symbols from the journal onto the floor, reciting the incantation written in the margins. The entity shrieked, its form flickering as the symbols glowed brighter. The room shook violently, and the walls seemed to close in. With a final, ear-piercing scream, the entity's form imploded, leaving behind an oppressive silence that seemed to press down on them like a weight. The air was thick and still, and the hidden limb returned to its previous state, the photographs once again lifeless and still, though the lingering sense of malevolence remained palpable. Breathing heavily, Sarah and James clung to each other, their bodies trembling with residual fear. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, half expecting the entity to reappear any moment. James's hands were still shaking as he closed the journal, his mind racing with the gravity of what they had just survived. "Is it gone?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. "I think so," James replied, though his tone was uncertain, his gaze fixed on the now dormant symbols on the floor. They stumbled out of the room, each step feeling like a monumental effort. As they slammed the door shut behind them, the sound echoed through the house, a final punctuation to their harrowing ordeal. Without a word, they pushed the bookcase back into place, their movements hurried and desperate, as if blocking the door could somehow erase the horrors they had witnessed. Standing in the hallway, their breaths coming in ragged gasps, they shared a look of mutual understanding, a silent vow never to speak of the hidden room or its dark secret again. The house around them was quiet, but the echoes of their terror lingered, a haunting reminder of the night they would never forget. The couple never spoke of the hidden room again. They tried to resume their normal lives, but the memory of that night lingered. Occasionally, they would hear faint whispers or feel a sudden chill, reminders that the curse had not been fully vanquished. Years later, as they prepared to move out of the house, Sarah found the journal tucked away in a forgotten corner. She hesitated, then threw it into the fireplace, watching as the flames consumed it. But as they drove away, neither noticed the faint, shadowy figure watching them from the attic window, a reminder that some curses are never truly broken.